The police station. An introduction for many players, welcoming them to the world of the Outlast trials. With its daunting dark basement to its stress-inducing final push. It's an iconic level where you meet the chaotic and morally questionable Leyland Coyle. This is an in-depth guide to the level itself, as well as the varying difficulties and enemies you'll face off against. I'll be going over how each rig performs in the trial as well, to give you an idea of how each one might fit your playstyle more. Amps will also be covered, and I'll also cover the secondary objective and what you need to look out for depending on what's active. This is Kill the Snitch. When you first enter the trial, your task will be to enter the station. On introductory and standard difficulty, feel free to look around and pick up any items you think you might need in the future. On intensive and psychosurgery difficulty, a heavy X-Pop will spawn and patrol the area, forcing you to play more strategically if you decide to explore. If you feel brave enough, you can run over this car and into this truck and get inside before the X-Pop sees you. You can enter through this way or through the front door, but just know that on higher difficulties the door can be locked or boarded up, which will require you to burst it down and will attract any nearby X-Pop. After you've made your way inside, your next task is to get to the security room so you can get to your main objective. As you navigate the halls, be warned that on higher difficulties, X-Pop will patrol the area, and sometimes there might even be a screamer in the main lobby, forcing you to either crouch walk or throw a brick or bottle at him to get him to leave. The rooms on the right can house some items which may or may not be locked in a container requiring a lockpick. You can also use this as a way to avoid the X-Pop patrolling the area. As you keep progressing down the hall, you'll find yourself in the offices leading to the security room. This room can sometimes spawn a screamer on the floor next to the sliding doors, and there will always be a heavy X-Pop patrolling here on higher difficulties. When you get to the security room and push the button, you encounter the prime asset, Coyle.
We got fucking laws around here! We got fucking laws!
After he's done with his little power trip, the doors unlock and you can finally make your way to the main objective. When you walk down this hall on higher difficulties, a heavy X-Pop will spawn and make their way to the offices where you just were. If you're brave and fast enough, you can ignore them and keep running and finally get to your main objective, the Snitch. You're then tasked with pushing the Snitch, but as soon as you start to push him, your efforts are thwarted by Coyle turning off the power. You now have to traverse to the basement where your next task awaits. Before you continue from here, there's a gate here that leads you back to the start of the trial. I'd recommend going through it and lifting this door handle up. Going down the ramp and lifting up the gate brings you to the basement. Here, Coyle himself will be patrolling the entire area. On higher difficulties, a berserker will also be in close proximity to the gate you just opened. Your main goal here is to find a gas canister, deliver it to a generator, fix the fuses on both sides of it, and then finally start the generator by doing a little QuickTime event. If you have more players in the group, the amount of generators needed to progress is increased. You'll find gas canisters all throughout the basement area, but just because you find one doesn't mean the generator is nearby. A giveaway for the generator's location is to look for these signs on the walls just outside the room. The signs never lie. After you've started the generator, you now have to make your way back to the Snitch, which means lifting up that loud gate again. Make sure there's no enemies nearby before you lift, as it could mean trouble for you if you're not careful. When you make it back to the Snitch, you now get to finish the task you started. You keep pushing him until you get to this gate, which tells you to look for a heart symbol. This leads you to the next part of your main objective, finding keys and dead bodies which open up gates. After finding the key in the heart symbol body, you can now progress on to the final area of the trial. Here, you will have to push the Snitch to 3 gates, all of which require a key belonging to a random set of symbols. The symbols and the location of the bodies change every single time you do the trial, so there's little room for memorization. On higher difficulties, the heavy X-Pop that spawned earlier will still be around and may get in your way as you try to push the Snitch. The Snitch will also start to move backwards if you haven't moved him in a little while, so you'll have to constantly check on him and move him forward. However, there's a little trick to this too. You can push him to a gate and wait until you hear a clicking sound. This means he's locked in that area and won't move backward beyond that point. Here, you need to find the body that matches the symbol on the screen, and you'll need to do this 2 more times after this. The final area of the trial can be divided into 3 parts. We'll call them subsections. The keys will always be found within the subsection that the gate corresponding to it is in. This means that the first key is always in subsection 1, the second key is always in subsection 2, and the third key is always in subsection 3, meaning that you don't have to backtrack to the first 2 subsections to look for the last key. Typically anything past the gate is considered the next subsection, so check the rooms before the gates. Be warned that X-Pop patrol each subsection on higher difficulties as well, and there's a heavy X-Pop that is patrolling around the Snitch at all times on all difficulties. Once you find the first key, you can push the Snitch a little further until you reach the second gate, and then rinse and repeat until you unlock the third gate. After you open a gate, the heavy X-Pop that's patrolling the area will now start to patrol the next subsection that you need to push the Snitch to, and they'll do the same thing when you open the second gate. On higher difficulties, there will also be another X-Pop who patrols subsection 3 who sometimes goes out into the main hallway where you push the Snitch. This part can be very annoying and time consuming, so what I personally do is when I initially get the Snitch to the first gate, I just leave him there. And then I go and find out which symbols I need for the next 2 gates. I then go find the keys and I open the gates in reverse order. So 3, then 2, then 1. This makes it so that the heavy X-Pop doesn't patrol those subsections right away, and it ensures that I don't have to stop pushing the Snitch once I start. I also like to save an adrenaline for the last push to make sure my stamina doesn't run out, so that I can keep running while pushing him without a break. After you've pushed the Snitch to the end, your final task is to execute him. These levers activate the electric chair he's strapped to, and you need to keep going until the screens reach 100%. With more players, it takes a bit longer to complete this, especially if not everyone is doing the objective. During this time, Coil and the heavy X-Pop following you through the subsections will get in your way. They are always aware of when you're using the lever and immediately make a beeline for it upon hearing it. You can juke them by using the doors and subsections we navigated earlier, but make sure that you know where you're going and that nothing's locked. Once you execute the Snitch, it's time to escape. You need to go back to where you entered the trial and push the button to call for the shuttle home. You can use the gate that I mentioned earlier to get back quickly and potentially avoid any other X-Pop, or you can go back out through the front door. But there will be an X-Pop cutting you off on higher difficulties. Back outside the police station, Coil will start to patrol the area around the button along with another heavy X-Pop. In classic Outlast fashion, you'll need to wait for the perfect opportunity to go hit the button and wait the 10 seconds before the shuttle arrives. If anybody's close enough, they'll hear the button being pressed and be alerted to your presence, so make sure they're far enough away to avoid being seen. After the shuttle arrives, you head through the doors, and you're done. The secret room is present in all major trials. If you find it, inside you'll find item boosters, medicine, batteries, a rig recharger, a master key which can open any lock instantly, syringes in co-op and respawn pills in solo. To open up the secret room, you'll need to find 2 Murkoff labeled buttons within the close vicinity of the door. On solo, you just have to press both buttons in a small window of time. In co-op, you and a friend will have to hold both buttons down at the same time to open the door. If you have the jammer rig, you can bypass the buttons entirely and use it on the secret room door to open it up. There are 5 locations in Kill the Snitch where the secret room can appear. The first you'll want to check is down in the basement. This is the earliest instance of where the secret room can be in the trial, so check here as its contents can be helpful to you later. The other locations of the secret room can be found in all of the subsections. One here in subsection 1, here in subsection 2, here in subsection 3, and here on the very outskirts of subsection 3. You should try to search for the secret room before doing any of the objectives required to move on, as the items inside can really help you in the trial. There's many types of secondary objectives currently within the Outlast trials. The most common one which you'll encounter if you just play the trial normally is to collect propaganda posters. These are randomly placed throughout the trial, and they're in excess, so you're way more than likely to come across more than you need to complete the secondary objective. They're always appearing on walls, so keep your eyes about head level. With more players in the group, the amount of posters needed increases. The other secondary objectives can only be done during events, or by getting them as varietors during escalation runs or in custom trials. With these varietors, Christmas gifts, drugged rats, TVs, dead reagents, or schematics will spawn randomly all around the trial, and you need to interact with them to complete it. Much like the posters, these are all in excess, so as long as you look around you'll find more than enough. With more players in the group, the more of these items are needed. With these varietors, a radio or broken television will appear in one spot randomly somewhere in the trial. Find it and stop the broadcast to complete it. While they do spawn in set locations, these locations can literally be anywhere within the level, so check every room until you found them. Before going over rigs, be warned that on psychosurgery difficulty, the rig cooldown is increased dramatically and will often leave you without a rig for upwards of 5 minutes, so use them cautiously on that difficulty. The stun rig is great if you're someone who finds himself getting caught a lot and doesn't have a means to defend yourself. You can use it on the heavy X-Pop patrolling the area around the Snitch if you're trying to push him, or on the Berserker and Coil in the basement if you need to get out quickly. The stun rig is probably one of the most effective rigs for any trial, as it has a reduced cooldown if it doesn't hit an enemy, and restores night vision battery and stamina if you are within the blast. The only downside is that Coil has a much lower stun duration and will get back on his feet more quickly than other enemies. The blind rig is another great piece of utility that can be used to create windows of opportunity for you to create space. Use this one if you know you're about to be seen and want to create a trap for the incoming enemy, like I did here in the basement. Even though I wasn't being chased, if the Berserker had heard me opening the gate, or if Coil had seen me, they would have run right into the mine. This is another good spot for the blind rig, since it's also so close to the gate you need to open. If the heavy X-Pop triggers it, it can also give you an adrenaline boost, which will help you push the Snitch further. Before you push the Snitch to the final room, you can place the blind rig down here to trap Coil as he's coming out of the elevator, giving you more time to escape. You can also put another one down between the gate and yourself so that if Coil catches up, he gets blinded again, giving you just enough time to finish executing the Snitch. The jammer rig is another all-around great tool for any trial. You can use it to unlock containers or padlock doors, turning traps against enemies, opening certain gates, or you can use it on enemies themselves, causing them to stagger for a brief time. The jammer rig is also great if you find yourself dying without any respawns or syringes left, as it can revive you or a friend once per trial. You can also use the jammer rig on the secret room door once you find it. The jammer rig has 3 levels of jamming that each increase the cooldown of the rig depending on what you're trying to use it on. Locks incur the lowest cooldown on the rig, small traps incur the second highest cooldown, and the secret room door and enemies incur the highest cooldown. If you're someone who has trouble with traps and wants to turn the tide against the X-Pops, or you just like having the trial tech on your side, the jammer rig is for you. The heal rig is an all-around good tool to have, especially playing in a group, but it can help if you find yourself getting hit a lot. It can even slow down enemies, which might come in handy if you're pushing the Snitch down the last subsection. The barricade rig blocks doors, making enemies have to break them down, which can slow them down and give you time to escape or complete an objective. Keep in mind that you can use them on any doorway whether there's a door there or not. You can put up to 2 barricades at a time with it, and any made after will automatically break the one you put up first. It's a great tool if you want to create your own pathways for enemies to take, and it has the lowest cooldown of any rig. The X-ray rig doesn't offer a ton of utility, but if you're someone who likes to know where enemies are so you can avoid them, this one's for you. The X-ray rig can also help you discover where items are located and even tell you which bodies have keys inside of them. So if you want, you can just ignore going to the gates to look for clues. It also recharges the battery while active and has a pretty short cooldown, so you won't need to rely on batteries for the most part. Depending on the difficulty, the types of enemies in the trial can vary. Of course, Coil himself will always be in the trial, but I'll go over him shortly. The most common type of enemy is the X-Pop. They'll patrol around the trial and deal with you if they see you. If you run, you'll most likely lose them if you turn a corner or hide out of sight of them. They're by far the easiest enemies to deal with. Heavy X-Pop are the second most common enemy. They behave much like the normal X-Pop, but for some reason, and I'm not sure if this is a bug or how they're intended to behave, they take slightly longer to notice the player at first. They hit much harder than normal X-Pop, but are generally slower and easier to lose in the chase. Pouncers are by far the most annoying enemy. They hide in random hiding spots and wait for a player to pass by them. Once they do, they leap out at them and attack them. The player must repeatedly mash a button to get away or have a friend kick her off them. Once they're off, they'll go find another hiding spot and wait for another opportunity to attack. You can pinpoint where a pouncer could be hiding by listening for her ramblings. She never shuts up, so once you know she's nearby, be wary of all nearby hiding places until you know for sure where she is. The Tier 1 prescription, self-defense technique, lets you fight back against the pouncer by using a bottle or a brick from your inventory when she jumps on you. Doing so will negate any damage she does to you and force her to run away to find a new hiding spot. Additionally, the Tier 3 prescription, anti-ambush, allows you to throw a brick or bottle at a hiding spot where a pouncer is hiding to force her to leave the spot. Screamers stand still in one spot, and if disturbed, they let out an ear-piercing scream that will cause you to have double vision while within range of them. Much like the pouncer, once they're disturbed, they'll run off to a new spot and post there. Making any kind of noise will cause the screamer to react, and making too much noise in a short amount of time will disturb him. Try to crouch near one whenever you're nearby. You can also throw a brick or bottle at him to cause him to run away and find a new spot. Imposters are enemies that you won't encounter if you play solo unless the Varietor, more imposters, is present. But in a group, they will spawn through the insertion gate at random times, dressed as one of the players. They'll try to walk up to one of you, and if they get close, they pull out a knife and welcome you to London. You can tell if they're an imposter based on the name tag above their head. It will be a crude misspelling of one of the players in your group, but the name tag will be absent if the Varietor, no player names, is present. Another way to tell if it's an imposter is by the noises and laughs he makes as you get close to him. You can make him go away by hitting him with a brick or bottle, or simply by entering a hiding spot. In a recent update, the devs made the imposters more lifelike by giving them the ability to pick up items, offer them to players, ping, and move more randomly. So it's important to remember that there's only room for one of you. Berserkers are blind. They rely on sound to pinpoint where you are. Much like the heavy X-Pop, they hit hard, so it's best to avoid them or crouch near them to avoid being hit. You should use a brick or bottle to help lure him away from objectives or doors. By using the cacophony amp, which makes all your bricks and bottles louder, you can assure he'll hear the projectile. Pushers spawn at random times throughout the trial. They will patrol the nearby area looking for any players unlucky enough to cross his path. If he catches you, he won't hit you. Instead, he'll spray toxic gas on you and force you into psychosis. He'll leave right away, but it's up to you to find an antidote, or run like a chicken with his head cut off. Pitchers spawn at random times throughout the trial. They patrol a good portion of the trial no matter where they spawn. They're equipped with a Molotov not only as a weapon, but as a light source too, which means they can spot you a little bit easier in the dark if you're close by. If they spot you, they'll throw a Molotov at you. Once they spawn, they won't leave for a good long while, so prepare yourself. The Jaeger is the newest enemy introduced to the trials. She spawns at a random time in the trial and usually spawns close to the player. She chooses one player to relentlessly pursue and always knows where they are, even if they hide. She won't stop until she's killed her target and can't be stopped by any means. The only way to deal with her is to run as far as you can from her and wait until she gets bored and despawns. You can also find a place that is impossible for the Jaeger to get to, and that will force her to despawn. In the context of Kill the Snitch, there's the security office before meeting Coil for the first time, and the basement. Coil is the prime asset, meaning he will always be present in the trial no matter what. Coil is seen only when turning on the generator in the basement, and when executing the Snitch. If he hits you, he'll temporarily disable your rig, which renders you unable to use it even if you use a rig recharger. You can try to stun him with the stun rig, but his stun duration is shorter than every other enemy, so don't rely on it too much to deal with him. Out of all the amps, really only a handful are strong and useful in almost all situations. The ones I use may not fit your playstyle, but they always get me from point A to point B without any issues. Noise reduction is a fantastic tool amp. As the name implies, it decreases the amount of noise you generate from running and opening doors, but that's not all it does. It also decreases the noise you make from disarming door traps, digging inside bodies, and jumping. It really comes in handy in not just Kill the Snitch, but in every trial, and is a must-have amp in the tool category. Other great tool amps are Cacophony and Slippers. The former makes your bottles and bricks louder when thrown and are great for causing distractions. Slippers makes it so that when you walk over a glass trap, you don't make any sound, although this is only if you walk over them. Running over them with the amp still causes the noise to be heard. Noise reduction is just too good of an amp to be replaced by these two, however. Skill amps have a little more variety in what is viable and what is good. The skill amp I always have equipped is Strong Arm. Strong Arm makes your bricks or bottles more impactful when hitting an enemy. Hitting an X-Pop causes them to stagger far longer than without the amp, though hitting a prime asset sees little difference. This can come in handy in many situations and is why I primarily use this app for my runs. Smash and Door Trap Breaker are also good skill amps to have, especially if playing on higher difficulties when more doors are unreliable. Smash lets you bust open locked or blocked doors in one hit. Door Trap Breaker makes it so that you'll basically never get hit with a door trap again. If you open a door trap regularly, the trap will shatter. If you open a door trap slowly, it disarms instead. And Invisible is another great skill amp that makes you, well, invisible to enemies in hiding spots, only if they didn't see you enter it. Even if you peek while in it, they won't see you. Medicine amps are really useful. The one I tend to use is Incognito, which makes crouched walking speed faster. Sometimes I find myself unable to escape an enemy while crouching, and this helps me escape far more often than not. Antitoxin is another great medicine amp if you find yourself losing sanity often. This makes your sanity recover by itself over time, and makes psychosis last half as long. Double doses is really good if you or a teammate die a lot. They cause syringes in co-op to have 2 uses, and respawn pills in solo to give 2 extra lives instead of just 1. Last Chance is good on higher difficulties where enemies can hit a lot harder and can kill you a lot easier. This amp always leaves you with 1 HP if the last hit would have been fatal. Boosted is another solid amp that gives you a random booster item like the ones you find in the secret room when you first enter the trial. A health booster, which gives you 1 extra segment of health, a battery booster, which makes your night vision last twice as long, or a stamina booster, which gives you more stamina. Keep in mind that this is randomized and won't always be the one you're looking for. Self-Revive is yet another great medicine amp that lets you come back from death once per trial. Say you're out of respawn pills, syringes, or the jammer rig already revived you. This amp gives you another chance for a comeback. Getting an A+ grade isn't as hard as it may seem. You don't have to be flawless or complete the trial in a specific amount of time. All that matters is what you do and how much of it you do. Doing positive things like using your rig, using batteries, collecting documents, using lockpicks, or other beneficial items causes your score to go up. Doing negative things like getting hit, dying, getting caught in psychosis, or getting caught in traps causes your score to go down. Typically, you want the positives to greatly outweigh the negatives. If you do get hit or get caught in psychosis, using a medicine, bandage, or antidote adds more score to your end result. However, if your health or sanity regenerates by itself, you lose out on that positive score. Completing a secondary objective gives you a huge boost towards your score, and will more often than not guarantee an A+, as long as you don't trigger too many negative scoring factors. You actually don't have to complete the secondary objective to get an A+, but it's recommended you do as it gives that huge boost. It's a relatively simple trial, with a clear objective and not too difficult. It's no wonder this is what they chose to welcome players into the world of the Outlast trials. I hope, if nothing else, this guide helped you learn something about Kill the Snitch. I want to make more in-depth guides for all the trials, and including the MK challenges in future videos. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the sleep room.